All right, y'all, today we are talking about men's Bolo brands. I have been picking up more and more men's items as I have shifted my business model to a more low COGS business model by sourcing at the bins. And if you don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to business models, I'll link up my video I did a while ago on business models within reselling, but I've been learning about men's brands to be on the lookout for, aka Bolo brands. So today I'm going to go over 12 brands that I have personally come across in the wild and have picked up sourcing at primarily the bins and have had a lot of success picking up. I'm going to go over also what the average sales price for those brands are when I aggregated data from Poshmark sold comps, and also a little bit of background with each brand. So, all right, let's jump into it. When I was looking at my overall stats of my sales when it came to men's clothing, something that I noticed is that my average sales price and my average gross profit are fairly similar, but something that was performed much better than, my average sales data was my sell-through rate. My average days till sold when it came to men's items was 82 days, whereas on average my overall inventory is 332 days, at least it was for 2022. So something that I think is really important that oftentimes gets glossed over is that men's items, and at least in my experience, tend to sell faster than women's items. And that might be because I'm being a little bit more selective when it comes to men's items, but I also think it could speak to the fact that there's actually just less competition when it comes to men's items still on places like Poshmark, eBay, and so forth in comparison to women's items. Okay, so let's dive into the brands. I'm actually going to go in alphabetical order with this brand list. So the first brand I wanted to talk about is called Alex Crane. And this is a brand that I came across at the bins. I never heard about it. I saw it at the bins, looked it up, and decided to pick it up, and it performed really well. So based off of recent sold comps data on Poshmark, the average sales price for this brand is actually pretty high at $56.29, which is great. Alex Crane is a designer, and he worked for Jack Spade and started his own line in 2016. They focus on, a quote from their website, Alex Crane makes breezy clothes, and so they have a lot of linen pieces, etc. They also make women's clothing too, but I think it is a primarily menswear focused brand, at least for now. And something that performs really well by this brand, and this is the case for almost every brand on this list, is jackets. And if I were to tell you to focus on one category when it came to men's clothing, it would be jackets or blazers. Outerwear in general is just going to perform much better on average than pants or shirts, etc. And I think that piece of advice is especially pertinent for people who are going thrifting at a regular Goodwill or a regular type of thrift store, where you have to be a little bit more strategic about what sections of the store you're going to, especially if you have a limitation on time. If you are sourcing at the bins, however, you're going to come across, everything at random. So it doesn't necessarily matter. You're going to pick up what you come across. And that's what happened for me. I came across these Alex Crane bow shorts that were 100% linen. And I'm glad I did. They sold really well. I listed them on 55, and then they sold on eBay for $38 plus $5.99 shipping in only 16 days. And that's another thing I want to mention is that, I'm pulling all of the sold data from Poshmark, but something I noticed is that menswear tends to sell really well on eBay and Mercari as well. In fact, putting all the information together for this video made me really want to cross-list all of my men's items to Mercari because they aren't currently all cross-listed. But based off my experience, menswear tends to actually sell better on Mercari than I previously thought. So anyway, Alex Crane, definitely a Bolo brand to be on the lookout for. The next brand on this list is one that I've talked about on this channel a lot, and it is Billy Reid. So I've told the story on the channel before, but we were at Crossroads, which is a buy-sell trade store here in Portland. My partner Matt and I were there a while ago, and he came across a coat by Billy Reid, and it was called the Bond coat. I'd never heard of Billy Reid, never heard of the Bond coat, and he got it, I think, for like 30 something bucks. This Bond coat has a funny story attached to it. So Billy Reed, after doing a little bit of research, is actually a brand based in Florence, Alabama, which I didn't know, because my exposure to this coat was through the Bond coat. For some reason, I assumed it was a British brand, but no, it's based in the south of the United States in Florence, Alabama. So Daniel Craig was shopping in Nashville, Tennessee, and purchased a Bond coat, which was based off of Bond Street in New York City. That's what it was named after. But Daniel Craig, of course, is the actor for James Bond, and bought this coat and then requested to have this coat in wardrobe for the movie Skyfall. So he wore the Bond coat by Billy Reed in Skyfall, which brought Billy Reed, the brand, a lot of publicity and a lot more exposure, and it kind of catapulted the brand. If you find a Bond coat, it can sell between $200 and $300. So Matt, if you want to sell yours, let me know. The average sales price for Billy Reed is $37.41. There's a big range of what items sell for. So, you know, the outerwear is going to sell for more, and then some of the more basic pieces are going to sell for less. But $37.41 is still, I think, a really good average sales price. So anyways, Billy Reed is a really great brand to be on the lookout for. I have thrifted a blazer by Billy Reed and sold it in 2021, which did really, really well, but I wanted to include a more recent sale since it's 2023. This was a Billy Reed Jacquard Terry Crew sweatshirt that I thrifted. I listed it for $70 and received an offer for $45, which I accepted after just 10 days of listing it. So, of course, similarly to almost every brand on this list, blazers and outerwear are going to perform best, but still pieces like a sweatshirt can do really well. So definitely be on the lookout for Billy Reed. Okay, which leads me into my next brand, which is a brand that I've talked about, I think, in a bread and butter brands video before. And it's one that I've come to love, and it's called Buck Mason. So the average sales price for Buck Mason is $36.66. Buck Mason was founded in LA in 2013 by two Venice Beach neighbors, which I thought was cool. They're both Midwest natives. Their names are Eric Allen and Sasha Cohn. And the brand has received publicity from GQ when Tom Brady wore a Buck Mason t-shirt on the cover for when he was Man of the Year. And they really started focused primarily on t-shirts and jeans, and they produce all of their clothing in the United States locally, and they focus on small batch production runs, which I thought was really cool. But they have expanded now beyond just t-shirts and jeans, and they sell, you know, a variety of menswear. Of course, their jackets are going to sell really well again, but their sweaters also do really well. But I pick up everything I come across that's Buck Mason. For instance, I thrifted at a regular Goodwill these Buck Mason slim jeans, and I listed them on Poshmark for $70 and then received an offer for $45 after only one day, which I went ahead and accepted. So Buck Mason is definitely one of my favorite men's brands to come across and pick up. Okay, the next brand, gosh, I should have looked this up because so many of y'all have spelled it out for me how to pronounce it. For whatever reason, it can't stick in my brain. The next men's brand on the list is Farty. Farty? Okay, you can try to tell me again and I'll see if it sticks. Faherty. Farty? Farty. I don't know, I'm sorry. And this is a brand I love coming across. The average sales price for this brand is actually higher than I thought it'd be. It's $45.44, which is great. The quote from their website, it says, inspired by the sun, Farty, I don't know, is a family brand all about great quality, legendary comfort, and good vibes. It was actually started by two twin brothers, and then one of the twin brothers' wives, Alex and Mike Farty. I think it's Farty, I'm gonna go with that. And then Carrie Doherty in 2013. And Mike went to design school, worked for Ralph Lauren, and then Alex worked in private equity. So they joined forces, you know, one with a business background, one with a design background, being twin brothers, best of both worlds, and started this brand, which I thought was pretty cool. And they started by focusing on creating the perfect board short. They're definitely more beach inspired. However, still, their jackets do really well and their pants do really well. I found this red plaid short sleeve shirt, and I had it listed on Poshmark for $50 and it sold for $40 after 109 days. But some of their stuff sells a lot faster. But yeah, I love finding this brand, and I pick up basically everything that I come across in this brand, especially at the bins, but it can sell really fast and for really good money. What sells even faster though, I cannot find background info on this brand, is Flint Tinder, the next brand on this list. Their average sales price, and I think this is a little bit inflated, or like substantially inflated potentially, because they have one piece that is in really high demand and sells for a lot of money. But anyway, their average sales price is $78.95. They have this piece called the wax jacket. It's been written about in a bunch of blogs and magazines and so forth, and it consistently resells for over $100. So if you come across that, definitely pick it up, and it should sell for good money within a short amount of time, and a lot of the sold comps were that specific piece. I've never come across that piece, but I've actually come across a few pieces by Flint Tinder, and they always sell very fast. And I couldn't find any background on it except for that it's only sold at a place called huckberry.com, which is an online retailer of men's outdoor wear. And if you want to just peruse huckberry.com for other men's brands, I think that's a good idea too. A couple of the other brands on this list that I've come across in the wild are also sold on huckberry.com. On their Instagram, they describe themselves as easy, hard-wearing American classics. So that might contribute to why their resale value is so high, is because their supply to the marketplace is kind of constrained by only being sold at this one online retail location. They're not distributed by any brick and mortar store. So interesting. But I found this Flint Tinder 365 pants, and I listed it on Poshmark for $60, and it sold full price for $60 in just 11 days. So definitely, I would say pick up virtually anything by Flint Tinder at the right price, but especially the wax jackets. But it sells so fast for me that I pick up anything, especially at the bins. Okay. Next is a brand, I think it's the lowest average sales price on the list, but I always pick it up when I come across it at the bins, and it just tends to sell very consistently and well for me, so I decided to go ahead and include it anyway. And it is Weldon. It has an average sales price of $26.52. So for most pieces anyway, you're probably not going to want to pay up too much for it, but at the bins, I definitely would recommend picking it up. And I think part of the reason why their average sales price is so much lower is because they started out with a focus on socks and underwear, which of course has an average lower retail price. But now they sell all kinds of menswear. They are founded by Brian Berger. This is the quote from their website. "We founded Weldon because we wanted more out of our basics and always questioned how something so essential could be such a pain to buy." So I'll just share a sale that did well for me, and this is actually something that sold on Mercari. So this was a Weldon silver long sleeve polo. I listed for $40. It sold on Mercari for $30 after only 19 days. So I pick up Weldon whenever I come across it, especially polos and stuff, and it just always sells. So that's why I wanted to include it on this list. Next is a brand that sells really well for me, and it is Mizzen and Main. And the average sales price of this brand is $38.21. They actually started by creating a performance dress shirt called the Leeward that is focused on sweat wicking and so forth. And the company was started in 2021. They've partnered with athletes such as JJ Watt, who's a football player, and Phil Mickelson, who is a golf pro. It's weird how you don't say golf player, you just say golf pro. He's not a golf player, he's a golf pro. And they've built quite a following with this strategy. Whenever I find this brand, it sells really fast. One piece that I found was a Mizzen and Main Leeward pullover in gingham. I thrifted this at the bins. I listed it for $50 and received an offer on Poshmark for $42 after only 6 days. So that was a really good sale, and I love finding this brand when I come across it. Yeah, it's definitely a good brand to know. Next was a brand I did not know about at all until I came across it at the bins, and I posted about it on Instagram. It's Mugsi, and I went ahead and picked it up after checking comps, and it did really well. So the average sales price for this brand was $37.43. It was started by Leo Tropiano in 2015 when he was searching for a pair of jeans that were slimming but not too tight and not uncomfortable. I guess he couldn't find what he was looking for, so he decided to start this company. Now they do produce and focus mainly on bottoms, so jeans and pants and shorts, but they still also sell tops and so forth. So they've expanded beyond what their main focus was originally, jeans. I found these Mugsi Morgan's chino pants at the bins. I listed them for $50 and again received an offer for $42 after just one day. So it sold really fast for a really good offer. So I was very happy with the performance of the one and only time I found Mugsi. So I'm definitely going to be on the lookout for it in the future. And if you come across it, I would recommend you do the same. The next brand on this list is also a brand that focuses mainly on bottoms, and it's called Public Rec. I found this at the bins, didn't know about it, and so I looked it up and was happy with comps. But then my dad recently moved to Portland, and when I was packing up his clothes, my aunt had bought him a bunch of Public Rec pants. So I was like, oh, and he has a neurodegenerative disease, so he kind of has some issues getting dressed. So these are actually perfect pants for him. But the whole point of their pants is that they're basically kind of sweatpants, but they look like, everyday casual pants. And in fact, their main pants called the All Day Everyday pant. Kind of similar to like a Beta brand, but their material is more of kind of like a soft shell fabric. So anyway, I found a pair of the All Day Everyday pants. I listed them on Poshmark for $55 and they sold for $33. So I think it sold in my 40% off sale. I think I could have sold them for more, but anyway, sold them for $33 after 10 days. And yeah, if you do come across these pants, though, I think you could sell them for probably around $40 to $50. So yeah, I was definitely very happy with that sale, and will definitely be on the lookout for Public Rec in the future. Okay, and the next brand on this list is one that when I found it at the bins, I actually wasn't sure it was worth picking up, and when I checked comps, I was really happy. Relwyn, RELWEN, and the average sales price of this brand is $91.89, so it's actually the highest on this list. And Relwyn was started in 2007, heavily influenced by the quote, the fields and farms and Great Lakes of Ohio and Michigan. Another quote is, one of the first garments we made was our military parka. Exhaustive detailing went into this piece and every piece thereafter to make sure every element provided a sense of heritage and purpose that was straightforward. Our ultimate aim always being to produce function and a quality of character that will serve for years of wear. Their blazers and jackets, again, are going to do the best by this brand, but also sweaters can do really well, but especially their wax jackets. They're another brand that tends to have a wax jacket that performs really well. I found this Relwyn full zip striped sweater and in this color navy, which I listed on Poshmark for $75, and it sold for $60 after just one day. So it sold really, really fast and for a really good price. So I'll definitely be picking up Relwyn again if I ever come across it, and it's definitely a brand to know. Okay, next is a brand I also came across at the bins, didn't know about it until I came across it, and it is Rowback. And Rowback has a really high average sales price, especially for the category that it specializes in, and it's $57.79. Rowback has a really interesting founding story. So I guess one of the founders wore a pair of orange pants, or one of the friends of the founders, I don't know, started wearing a pair of orange pants. And so they started like sharing this pair of orange pants and taking pictures of them wearing it, this group of friends, at different places, and then created an Instagram account called Brotherhood of the Traveling Pants. So it was just kind of an inside joke that turned into an account that gained a bunch of followers. And then they reached out to different brands to see if they could get free clothes, if they wore their pants and so forth. So they reached out to Vineyard Vines, and Vineyard Vines offered to create a whole summer campaign based around their account, which was cool. And so they basically leveraged this account to create their own clothing brand. And what they wanted to base their clothing brand on was that they kept wearing shirts that they would sweat through. So they created Rowback, which focuses on performance polos that you can wear, to golf or work or happy hour, etc. It's supposed to be something that you can wear everywhere, and they chose the name Rowback because one of them, I guess, was working with Rhodesian Rowbacks, the dogs, and kept saying that these dogs, Rhodesian Rowbacks, craved activity. And so they were creating a brand for people who were very active and like to do a bunch of things within their day. So anyway, they combined Rhodesian Ridgeback into Rowback, and that's the brand name. All right, so anyway, I thought it was an interesting story. So I came across a Rowback and Barstool polo, and Barstool is a whole other, brand, not a clothing brand, but they are, I think, a podcast, or they're a sports media company, I believe. But they had a collaboration of polos. Came across one at the bins. I listed it for $75 and it sold for $50 within one day. So that gave me an indication that, wow, okay, based off my limited experience, this brand does really well. But then checking comps, their polos just resell really, really well. I mean, that average sales price of $57.79, and they mainly focus on polos. So if you were ever in the polo section and you see a Rowback one, I would say definitely consider getting it. I'm sure certain styles do better than others, but to maintain an average sales price that high, that's pretty impressive. Okay, so our next brand actually also has a similar great average sales price, and it is Tailor Stitch. It has an average sales price of $57.29. And Tailor Stitch is definitely a really great bolo brand to know. I actually just recently found it for the first time. Tailor Stitch was founded in 2008. They started as a shirting company, but now they, of course, produce a range of menswear. And if you go on their About Us page, they focus a lot on sustainability of their fabrics and production and so forth. Their jackets and their shop shirts, which is kind of like a shacket or like a overshirt, do really, really well. But the piece I found was a pair of pants, which of course I would say if you find Tailor Stitch, it's probably a good idea to just go ahead and pick it up if it's for a good price, especially if you're shopping somewhere at the bins. But even at Goodwill, of course, check comps if it's a really high price, but Tailor Stitch is a really, really good brand to find, definitely a bolo brand. The piece I found was a Tailor Stitch, the après pant jogger, and I listed it for $78 and it sold for 30% off for $54 after only 8 days. So maybe could have got more for it, but that's pretty close to the average sales price of this brand, so I was definitely happy with it. And it was a size small. Okay, and then the last brand on this list is one that I went through a phase where I found like 3 pieces by this brand back to back to back. The brand is Todd Snyder, and the average sales price is great at $67.57. So it is founded by Todd Snyder, the designer, in 2011, and he infused his love for New York City into the brand. The quote from the website is, redefining how modern American men can present themselves to the world in stylish, unexpected ways. From bespoke tailoring to innovative capsule collections, Todd's creations show that good style can be attainable and even playful. So when I was looking through sold comps and compiling all of that data, something that definitely kept coming up is that if you find a Todd Snyder LL Bean collaboration piece, it's probably worth a lot of money, especially the boots. They sell for a ton of money. So they did do a collab, and so I definitely want to make a note of that. But the regular Todd Snyder pieces can do really, really well as well. So I came across a Todd Snyder utility cargo twill pant. That actually sold on Mercari. So I had it listed for $100 and then received an offer on Mercari for $75, which I accepted. And it took 89 days to sell. And actually, someone who is probably a collector or just a really big fan of Todd Snyder messaged me on Poshmark about these pants because I had listed them, I don't know, incorrectly, but I wasn't including all of the information, so he listed and told me all about the pants and that they're rare and all this stuff. And so I actually increased the price and added a stock photo and maybe added some more details to the listing. So that was very, very nice of that person to do. But they're definitely, for a lot of these brands, I think menswear brands, there are people who are obsessed with them. and there's definitely a following for these different brands. So Todd Snyder definitely fits that category, and so I was very happy that these did sell for 75 bucks. But yeah, that is the list of 12. Oh, that's 13. So you got a baker's dozen. You got an extra brand in there. Okay, so that is the video. Let me know in the comments down below, what men's Bolo brand do you love finding and selling that I didn't mention in this video? Very curious. I'm loving picking up men's brands and learning more about them. So yeah, let me know in the comments down below. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't mention, I'm not a menswear specialist, but there are people who focus primarily on menswear and definitely know their stuff. So one of them is my friend Steven, Sea Fashion Guru. He isn't currently making YouTube videos, but he has in the past made some videos on menswear. So I'll either link that up on the screen or in the description. And then another person is Thrift-A-Life, who I watched his channel on and off for a while, and it's a really, really great YouTube channel. He focuses primarily on menswear too. And so I'll link that somewhere as well, either on the screen or down below. Thank y'all so much for watching the video. If you liked it, give it a big old thumbs up. Again, comment down below what brands you love selling that are menswear Bolo brands, and I will see y'all in the next one. Okay, love y'all. Bye.